Bonjour! You are watching French Action and my name is Jenny. Today I'm going through the imperfect tense with you using the context of the childhood. I have created an old album photo to talk about what we did or used to do when we were younger. After my explanation on the imperfect tense, there will be an exercise right at the end. Let's get started. Vous êtes prêts? Allons-y. L'histoire de ma grand-mère. Let's go through the album together. Quand j'étais petite, j'allais à l'école du quartier. C'était un collège de filles. J'aimais l'école et je travaillais bien. J'allais à l'église le dimanche matin. Je m'y rendais à pied. L'église ne se trouvait pas trop loin de la maison. Je passais du temps à regarder les garçons jouer au football. À l'époque, les filles ne jouaient pas au football, mais cela m'intéressait. Mon père avait une Citroën. Nous allions partout dans cette voiture. Je prenais des cours d'équitation car nous avions 3 chevaux. So this was the story, and I'm sure you noticed a difference in the verb endings. So before we go into the verb endings, let's have a look at when the imperfect is used. The imperfect is used when we want to talk about our childhood or somebody else's childhood. So for example, we had quand j'étais petit or quand j'étais petite, when I was younger. So whenever you want to talk about that time when you were younger, you're going to have to use the imperfect. You also use it to make a description in the past. So you may want to describe somebody or something. In this case, it was c'était un collège de filles. It was a girls' school. So c'était, with the ending AIT, is the imperfect. We also had l'église ne se trouvait pas trop loin de la maison. The church was not located too far from the house. That is also another description which was in the album. The imperfect tense is also used when we want to say what we had. To say what you had. So we're talking about states. Mon père avait une Citroën. My father had a Citroën car. Citroën is the French car make. So here, as you can see, we had to use the imperfect because we wanted to say my father had a Citroën. The imperfect is also used to talk about action we used to do, habits in the past. For example, we had in the album, j'allais à l'école. I went to school or I used to go to school. Je me réveillais tôt. I used to get up early. Je m'y rendais à pied. I used to go there on foot. Or, I used to walk there. Je passais du temps à regarder. I used to spend time watching. Je prenais des cours d'équitation. I had horse riding classes. So these forms are all in the imperfect. The imperfect tense is also used to express emotions, feelings about something or someone, to express our likes and dislikes in the past. So when we have j'aimais l'école, I liked school or I used to like school. Cela m'intéressait, this interested me, or I was interested in this. Now that we have seen when we need to use the imperfect tense, let's see how it is formed. The first thing we need to look at is the stem. We need to get a stem and then the endings of the imperfect. So let's look at the stem first. To get the stem of a verb, we need to get that verb in the new form in the present tense. So what we do, we just get rid of the ONS, and whatever is left is our stem. So let's see some examples. Aller, which means to go, is going to give you nous allons when we conjugate it in the present tense. So remember, we need to use the new form, nous allons. We need to get rid of the ONS, and what is left is ALL. And the stem of aller in the imperfect is going to be ALL. Let's look at another verb. This verb is prendre. Nous prenons. Be careful. Even though it's prendre, the D is not there in the new form. So we get rid of ONS, and what we have left is PREN, prenne. Oh, prend. Finir, a verb like finir, we have to be careful. The present tense of finir is finissons. So when we get rid of the ONS, we have finis left as a stem. But we have to be careful because this doesn't work with être, which is to be. We have nous sommes, and the stem is et. And we have seen it already, c'était, et. Okay? So this is for the stem. So now let's discover the endings. As you can see there, when you have a je, you have AIS. When you have a tu, you still have an AIS as an ending. Il or elle, AIT, be careful, the S changes into a T. Then for the nous and the vous, it's exactly as if you were in the present tense, but you add an I, and that is going to make the big difference between the present and the imperfect. And il and elle plural gives you e. Be careful, this one is AIENT. So if we look at the verb aller, it gives you j'allais, tu allais, il ou elle allait, nous allions, vous alliez, il ou elle allait. J'allais, tu allais, il allait. As you can see, no change in the pronunciation. Nous allions, vous alliez, and we are back to aller, ils allaient. Let's go through some translations. J'allais à l'école, I used to go to school, or I would go to school. Would here is not conditional, is the would of a habit. Je me réveillais tôt pour aller à l'église. I used to wake up early to go to church, or I would wake up early to go to church. Let's look at a little passage where we are setting the scene. Remember, we talked about the fact that the imperfect is used to describe people, but also places, setting the scene. Okay? So, we have here in French, il faisait beau et les enfants jouaient dans le parc. Il y avait beaucoup de monde. This could be translated into English as the weather was nice and the children were playing in the park. There were many people. So here the translation is slightly different. It's not that the children used to play in the park. Because we are setting a scene, it's a description here, we could well say the weather was nice and the children were playing in the park. So it is important for you to understand that the imperfect can be translated into several forms in English. So as we've seen, it could be I used to, I would, or was or were plus the verb with the ing. Now I would like you to have a look at some forms of common verbs. Okay, so if you can learn them, you don't have to go through the process of conjugating the verb in the present tense and getting rid of the ONS. So you can just say je faisais. If you remember je faisais, then you can remember the rest because nothing is going to change in terms of stem. Okay. You can remember je finissais, we had it before. Je partais, from partir. J'étais or j'avais. J'étais from to be, être, and j'avais from avoir, which means to have. And il fallait. Fallait comes from falloir. It was necessary. So here I am putting two verbs in the imperfect just to show you a slight irregularity, so to speak. When you want to say I used to eat, you have to remember to put the E before the AIS. Because if you don't, you end up with a different pronunciation because a G next to an A gives you a ga sound. Je mangeais doesn't sound right at all. We want to keep the original pronunciation of the infinitive verb, which is manger, G sound, and that will only work if we have an E next to an A. And that works as well for the O. Okay? So je mangeais, I used to eat, and je nageais, I used to swim. So if you can remember those two, that would be good. Now the exercise which I promised. Mettez les verbes entre parenthèses à l'imparfait. So here you're going to have a text and some verbs in brackets. So the verbs are obviously in the infinitive form and you would need to change those verbs into the imperfect. Quand je, petit, Cette femme vendre du poisson. Elle détestait l'odeur du poisson, mais elle devoir gagner sa vie. Son mari et son fils être tous deux pêcheurs. So this is the little exercise that you need to do now. So you can just stop the video because I'm going to give the answers in a minute. We have come to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that the imperfect is no longer imperfect to you. Please like it, share it, and until next time, au revoir.